And I call the honourable member for Menzies.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. And I acknowledge at the outset the valuable work done by security agencies throughout Australia in relation to the threat of terrorism. I wanted to place my remarks in slightly broader context than the actual day-to-day work of those agencies, because the latest terrorist outrages in Manchester, in London and in Melbourne, as well as elsewhere in the world, are a reminder that the war against the West is an ongoing one and it is deadly. No group, as we've seen, not even innocent young people attending a concert in Manchester, is beyond the target of this evil assault on our culture and our values. The fact that terrorism in the West is often perpetrated by young, radicalised second-generation migrants is indeed worrying. And I submit that programs of de-radicalisation are insufficient, have been insufficient, to address this threat. We're often told, Deputy Speaker, that the real cause of terrorism is poverty, despair or disenfranchisement. But many of the young terrorists have been educated young people from relatively well-off families who are otherwise making the most of their new home. The terrorists and those who recruit and radicalise them, who committed the atrocities in Manchester, in London, in Paris, in Berlin, in New York and elsewhere, do so because they believe that they work. Whether it's for publicity or recruitment or in the hope of winning concessions from Western nations, they believe that their war against the West will be rewarded. And let us not forget that Australian authorities have thwarted 12 imminent terrorist attacks on our soil, and over 200 residents of this country are under surveillance and investigation by security agencies. Unless we acknowledge that the enemy has a fanatical opposition to the values of the West, then I believe we will never defeat it. What is at stake is the heart and the soul of our civilisation that upholds the individual with obligations and responsibilities to others, but ultimately judged on his or her own conscience and actions as the possessor of an inherent human dignity and inalienable rights. The assailants on our civilisation share one characteristic. The individual is subjugated to the group, defined in terms of race or religion or some other identity. This is at the core of the fundamentalist ideology. It must be exposed and defeated, because if we don't, we run the risk of the backlash that could be equally deadly. There is, I suggest, one central issue here, and that is how can we ensure the peaceful coexistence of different groups within our community? The issue is not new to the West. In the 16th and 17th centuries, a series of religious wars consumed much of England and Europe. In order to prevent the continual war of all against all, leading thinkers of the era, such as John Locke, arrived at the idea of toleration. It was a political virtue, a means of allowing individuals to subscribe to their individual and collective beliefs while allowing the nation to be separately governed. Toleration is a reciprocal obligation. Each of us tolerate the belief systems of others. I tolerate somebody else's belief system in the reciprocal knowledge that they tolerate mine if they happen to differ. But what do we do when some people refuse to tolerate the beliefs of others? This is a pressing question in the Western world today. The spate of terrorist offences involving young people who have not been prepared to peacefully coexist and are determined to violently force their views upon society make this a critical issue at the present time. There is, I suggest, Deputy Speaker, a limit to toleration. When individuals or groups, through violence or incitement to violence, refuse to tolerate the beliefs of others, we are not obligated to tolerate their activities. We are obligated to take whatever measures are necessary to ensure that the breakdown of that reciprocity does not continue to infect society as a whole with the deadly consequences which ensue.